back to another video, and these are my winter eyeshadow palette recommendations for 2025. Welcome back, and today we are doing, I think, the first sort of like a palette recommendation or themed palette recommendation video for this year. So obviously, since Christmas is over, now we can talk about winter stuff, and I do have to say this is actually quite fitting. We unfortunately had a black Christmas, there was no snow, but right during the New Year's we got some snow, and now it's actually quite like a winter wonderland themed, at least when I was walking with my husband outside today. So this palette sort of favorite video is very on theme with today's sort of weather. For today, usually I've done this so that I have put these like sectioned these based on the drugstore, then high-end, and then indie palettes. However, today for the winter palettes I only have indie and high-end, so we're doing this in two sections. And these are of course my individual preferences, and yours might vary, and I do like doing this sort of seasonal makeup because for me I think I do like to adapt my makeup style for seasons, but obviously you're free to wear any kind of makeup you want whenever you want during the year. But I do say from this video expect a lot of like cool tones, but I did want to sort of like give bit options in this one from my palette collection of like winter palette recommendations, that not just maybe the typical thing that when we think about cool tones we think of grays and blues, but also some variations, because I do know that not everyone likes those kind of colors. But let's first go through the high-end ones, because with those I have few ones, and then we will do indie ones next on the next section, because I have much more indie palettes for this video. So for high-end ones, let's go first the more like typical, that if you're really just thinking about this typical winter like kinda cool tone look, and also these aren't like any ranking order, this is just a general favorites like recommendations video for winter palettes, so all of these palettes are sort of equal in this one. So more like obvious high-end recommendations from like winter cool tone themes is this one. So this is the Dior, and this was the famous Silver Essentials palette. Unfortunately this was a limited edition palette, so you can't get this anymore. I'm actually gonna bring this a bit closer because this is a smaller one, so you can kind of see. So with this Dior Backstage formula, this is the Silver Essentials generally is the bit better ones of these ones, because they do have some variation with the formula in between these palettes. But this is just something, it's very effortless. This is an easy, silvery, more smokier eye, even for someone who's not that experienced in using eyeshadow, because these just kind of blend themselves. And you get beautiful like cool toned silver and lilac cleaning looks with this one. You get a bit of shimmer in this one. There is this shade over here that gives you a bit more shine, but generally this is a more satin-like finish palette, but the looks that you will get with this one are these very beautiful cool toned winter looks, and this is definitely something that I do dig out usually during this time of the year to use. Then if you like cool tones but you don't want to go to maybe the typical like blue-gray direction, so I would say a good winter palette if you want some cool tones but you don't want them to be as maybe in your face is the Huda Beauty's Rose Quartz palette. I'm a bit unsure, is this still available or has it been discontinued? This still for me, for example, is the best thing that Huda has ever produced from her palettes, and I know because I also tried out the what was it? She came out with one of these big palettes before Christmas, one which she claims is her last big one. I don't believe that for a second. When big palettes are going to be trendy again, Huda's going to be launching another big one. But for example, that didn't make it into this video, first of all, because I haven't reviewed it yet in my channel, but also let's just say that I do still think that for winter, I would actually like, if you're looking for more cool toned looks with a twist, I would actually go with this one. And it is like more on the pink, more wish leaning, but it actually has like a bit of purples, and I do think that this is like a good like a cool tone palette without it being like more too grey leaning or again like blue leaning that a lot of cool tone palettes are. And especially if you like this more maybe cool toned looks that lean maybe a bit into more purple and pink, I would dig out this for winter. And this also has very beautiful dimensional shimmers that again Huda hasn't done anything better than the shimmers that are in this palettes afterwards. So I'm a bit bummed because I do think some of the like Huda does like to experiment with formulas in this one, but I would have hoped she would have like stick to most of the formulas in this one, because I do think they are pretty exceptional, especially for something that's a more of a mainstream high-end brand. Then sort of last high-end recommendation for winter palettes. This is definitely a neutral palette that I would say that if you want cool tones but you want to stay in the neutral realm, but again don't want to go to a grey direction. So I would actually like say the Natasha Denona I Need a Nude is a pretty good choice. It has one warm tone shade, which is the peachy shade over here. However, for example, on my skin tone, for some reason, and this maybe differs from undertones, in my particular skin tone it doesn't actually look that warm, which is something I actually a bit complained about on the review on this. But this is especially that if you like cool tone but you still want to keep it within the brown realm, you don't want to go to the grays because those might perhaps not suit your skin tone or it's just not your preferences. And this one truly has a very beautiful, these sort of sparkly wet looking shimmers that I think that will like give anyone the impression of it's this sort of like winter themed makeup. And this is also very effortless to work with and very easy to create looks with, so I think this is a very approachable palette for a lot of people. But I do think that if you have this or you've been eyeing this, I do think you're gonna get some very nice sparkly winter season looks that are on the cool leaning side but are maybe on the more brown tones rather than grays. So those were all the high-end ones, and let's now go to indie ones because with these ones we're gonna be seeing a bit more color. So let's maybe get to the more on the nose ones first. So this is the, if you managed to get this during the end of 2022, because this was in the budget box that was in the launched in the Christmas season of 2022, but I actually did end up trying this first time in the beginning of 2023. So I do think that the P. Louise If Looks Good Chill, like this is the ultimate blue toned winter palette if you are the person who digs this kind of color story. So this has two tiers. It has the upper tier over here, which is more like how should I say this? More primary leaning blues, and then we have the lower tier, which is this one, and this has the more like teal leaning blues. And you are definitely going to, if the kind of sort of blue, all blue winter looks is what you're looking for winter, you're gonna get it with this one. I think I did discuss when I reviewed this that this is definitely, like, I was quite surprised with the quality of this one because blue shadows are hard to formulate. And I do think the shimmers, you aren't gonna get anything like super multichromes in this one, but they are very sparkly shimmers, and yeah. So if blue is your color during winter and you did manage to get this one, I would dig it out because the looks are like, I think I had a friend who said that they are very like Frozen-esque looks that you get with this one, and I kind of like agree with her when you think about the color story of the movies. Then another sort of, maybe if you are leaning to the more blue, colorful side of winter, so I would also think if you have got the Cosmic Brushes Serenity palette. They also have the Winter Wonderland palette, so if you really just want purely blues and lilacs, then they also have maybe a palette that's actually named Winter Wonderland. But I do think that if you have this one already in your drawers, then maybe actually play with this one and see that do you think that you need the Winter Wonderland in your collection, because this is a pretty blue heavy palette, and again there's the lilac, so I do think that you're bound to get quite many like winter appropriate cool toned looks with this one. You do have some options to play with, because it also does have some greens and peaches, so you kind of have a bit of variety with this one. But again, if you are going to the direction that you want this sort of blue icy looks, then this could be again a palette that I would look into. Then sort of my ultimate sort of like, what is sort of my, if I would have to like pick that when I think about winter season, it's actually this one. So this is the Oden's Eye Christmas Eve palette. So this is one of the famous original Christmas palettes, and I have always said that first of all the quality of this one is beautiful, and this is kind of marries the two kind of things that I like, that you have the option for more neutral kind of cool toned looks, but then you also have these sort of, especially like more muted colorful shades, because the Cosmic Brushes and the P. Louise palettes, those have quite bright colorful shades, but this has more muted shades. I do think that for those of you who want some color in your makeup looks during the winter season, but you also kind of still want to have some, like, you don't want it to be super bright, I do think this is a good palette because you have some color, but it's not so like in your face. But also you have these sort of neutral shades also in this one to fall into. Also, what I do love about this one is that it has a very beautiful Oden's Eye shimmers. There is one multichrome, I think, which is, I think, this shade up here, and I also think that lilac one over here, there might be a duochroma shift to it. But this is one of the best quality Oden's Eye has produced, like, I think ever, and I just like this is for me like sort of my one of my like favorite soft spots between like having a bit of color but not too in your face, but also having some neutral options. Then another sort of like maybe on the side that you have a bit muted colors and then you have some neutrals to go through. So this is the Dreamer palette from Unearthly. I do believe this was their Christmas palette during 2023. And this is how the palette is looking like. And again, this is for those of you who may would like to have maybe a bit of color to play with, but you also want some neutrals mixed in, and you don't want the colors to be in your face. I do like that it has the maybe pop of pink here. It does something a bit interesting to this one. And I have always given credit to this color story that even though it kind of like maybe looks that it has maybe different colors that don't mix in, but I have never found, like I say that this is pretty smart color story in a way that the colors like work, all of the colors work together. Also this, again, there is a gray shade over here, but then you also have browns over here, browns in the same palette. So you can kind of, again, that if you're not a fan of grays, there are other shades here to mix in, and you can kind of still get a like nice winter themed look. And the sparkles in this one are beautiful. It's not the best shimmer quality I have had from Unearthly, because there is the heightened palette that I have that I think even upgraded the shimmer formula of this one, but the shimmers are still very sparkly and beautiful. Then I maybe again to the what I discussed with the high-end palettes, that again if you're looking for maybe more of a neutral palette that kind of gives a cool tone look without maybe just having grays. So I tried Kylie Cosmetics first time last year, and this is the palette that did survive in my collection. So this is the Bougie Boudoir. And this is, I think, for those of you who really don't actually want that much of a, you don't want cool tone mattes, because I will have to say that all the mattes in this one are actually very, very warm leaning. And what makes this, how you can then change your looks up, is that the shimmers are pretty cool toned leaning. So with this one, I think this is a, for those of you who want something a bit more cool toned, but you actually want your matte shades to be like more on the warmer side. The matte quality with Kylie Cosmetics is something that I hope the brand will work on in the future, but the mattes are workable and the shimmers are very nice. They are very sparkly, and again, I think just putting one shimmer all over the lid on top of the mattes and you will have a very beautiful look. And as you can see, most of the shimmers in this one are, we have some blue leaning shades, then there's some pinks, and then I think there's some like more silver leaning and this sort of champagne gold leaning. So the shimmers are definitely what for me makes this a winter recommendation palette, but I do think this is like for those of you who definitely don't want to have like cool tone mattes, but then you can maybe like a cool tone shimmer. And I do have to say that the shimmers do, like, I was kind of, when I got this I was thinking that how are the shimmers gonna go with the mattes, but the shimmers and mattes actually do go quite well together. So if you've been eyeing this, I don't know, because Kylie Cosmetics, it's I think one woman run brand, so I don't know is this available, but and is this something that they're gonna be selling anymore, but if you did manage to get this during last year, I would dig it out during this season. And then I think lastly what I think encompasses for me a winter, sort of winter cool toned, winter themed palette. So I got the Longin palette from Len Bunny last year, and this is how it's looking. So my only issue is that this goes very deep. So if you have a fair skin like I do, even though it looks like it has mid-tone shades, the lighter shades will go, lighter mattes especially will go, like they will stay on the light brown, but especially the mid-tone looking mattes, those also get kind of deep quite quickly. So with this one, be prepared that you have to like your more, how should I say, smokier, cool toned looks, because it's the kind of look that you're bound to get with this one. I do think what, especially like aside from the tones in this one, I do think this is like very wintry. Like I think this is wintry without it having, do we have actually, well we have the raw purples, but this is basically like wintry without it having like blue tones, because these are very still, like all of these shades are very cool leaning, and the shimmers in this one especially, Blend Bunny really did something in the shimmer quality with this one. They are sparkly, they are beautiful, they kind of give the sort of like icy, you can kind of have this sort of silver here that you can get a very icy effect, and also you have this like beautiful multi-duochrome here that has a bit of a golden bluish shift to it. So very beautiful palette and very appropriate for the winter season. Just be prepared that if you have a fair skin like I do, this is going to be pretty deep on you, but yeah. Still, this I do think from Blend Bunny, from the launches they did, this was actually the only launch. I did get 2 Blend Bunny palettes last year, but one of them was a gift and it was actually launched during 2022. Or no, sorry, not 2022, but during 2023. But this was the only Blend Bunny palette that I got from the brand, because I do think this was quite unique considering the amount of rainbow palettes they launched. And yeah, very beautiful and very appropriate for the winter season. So, what did you think about the palettes that I chose? I do think that I had a good variety, and comment down below, because I always like to know what are the winter palettes that you like to wear, what kind of colors you gravitate towards winter, and if you don't wear seasonal makeup, what kind of palettes are you having currently in your rotation. If you like this video, push the like button, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell button if you want to get notifications from our future content. You can also find me with the same nickname, Makeup Hedgehog, on Instagram. I hope I'll be using it soon in the video. Bye bye!